Okay, awesome. Okay, good. All
Mhm.
right. So nonprofit cloud, nonprofit cloud. I believe there are a mix of attendees here for this masterclass. I believe there are people who already work in the Salesforce ecosystem and just want to, hey, like it's been a while I've seen Sam. Let me see Sam's face. And I believe there are a couple of people who are also here who are considering what to specialize in or what should I specialize in. And there are people here who are just inquisitive and like, what's nonprofit cloud like?
Sorry,
What's
Sam. So sorry to cut you, Sam. One more
yeah,
thing.
sure.
Can you just put to make a presentation format? It's so
Oh, yeah, sure. I'm using the browser version. So that's why, because I'll be shuttling between, different tabs and all
okay,
that.
okay, okay.
Yeah,
All
that's
right,
why I
that's
have it
fine.
this way. But let me see if I can make it bolder. Uh,
Thank you.
is this better? Is this better?
Yes, it's okay. It's just the fact that
Okay.
someone was saying presentation mode, but I understand your perspective now since you'll be shortening to other.
Yes,
That's
yes,
fine.
yes. I
Can go
yes,
ahead.
that's why. That's why I didn't use that mode. Juliet, that's why I didn't use that mode. Good call out. That's because I'll be, shuffling between some tabs and things like that while I'm keeping everything in this browser window. That's why I have it. That's why I have it that way. Awesome. Okay. So, without further ado, let's just move on. What is Salesforce Nonprofit Cloud? What is Salesforce Nonprofit Cloud? There's no way we can talk about Salesforce Nonprofit Cloud without speaking about the solution that was available before Salesforce came up with the nonprofit cloud, right? So back then when Salesforce wanted to start providing solutions for nonprofits, um, brilliant chaps, brilliant folks came together, put up that product called Nonprofit Success Pack. Before then, there was something that was called NGOC, which is a much older system that I've seen a lot of nonprofits use and then migrate from NGOC into NPSP. So going forward, if I say NPSP, I'm talking about the Salesforce's old or older software solution or cloud solution for nonprofit organizations. And when I say NPC, NPC is non-profit cloud, which is their latest product that's being, recommended to non-profit organizations. So NPSP came, provided a solution where organizations or non-profits could get a data model, could get objects, could get solutions for their specific service offerings built on existing Salesforce instance. So what that means is that before, for you to use NPSP, you have to have the basic Salesforce, instance like the Sales Cloud, for example. You have to have that. Once you have that, you then, add the NPSP, add NPSP as an add-on to that. So once you install NPSP in your regular Salesforce instance, what it does is it brings in those objects. It's a managed package, so it brings in its own objects, page layout, record pages, fields, and a whole bunch of other functionalities, roll-up summaries, and things like that. It brings all that into your existing Salesforce instance. Once it does that, it transforms your regular business or for-profit Salesforce instance into a solution that is usable for a non-profit. So what that means is a non-profit that does strictly fundraising will then be able to track their fundraising efforts using specific objects that are peculiar to that. A non-profit that's a granting organization or a grant making organization is able to track their efforts by installing modules like the outbound fund modules, OFM, on the existing NPSP solution. If you are a nonprofit that works with volunteer, you could install what we call V4S, V4S, Volunteer for Salesforce, as an add-on on NPSP. So it was a case of add-ons on add-ons and add-ons. If you're a program oriented or a program-based nonprofit organization, what it means is that you would have to install what we call the PMM, Program Management Module. Bam, install that also on your Salesforce NPSP instance. What that meant is that reporting was not as efficient as it had to be, especially for large-scale nonprofits that needed specific data points due to the combination of multiple data models. OFM comes with its own, PMM comes with its own, and then the NPSP data model. The way they were all relating and objects were relating required the need for external third-party tools, third-party software, third-party plugin to have access to some data. There were also restrictions with access to integrating with a couple of external systems that nonprofit organizations had to use. Did it work? Yes. Was it perfect? No. But Salesforce, being a forward-thinking organization, always looking for ways to improve, taking client feedback, taking user feedback, using those idea exchange platforms that we all submit our ideas on, then started working on a future solution. Then they came with return to core idea in 2022, I believe, or 2021. I stand to be corrected. And nonprofit Success Pack, or the nonprofit solution for Salesforce, was one of the very first products that Salesforce did a whole revamp on. That was what brought about the launching of NPC, the Nonprofit Cloud, in 2023. This is wrong. This is not 2018. Forgive me. So it's 2023. It was launched, I believe, March 2023, and it took off from there. So NPC, Nonprofit Cloud, please note that going forward. I won't be saying Nonprofit Cloud, it's a mouthful. NPC, so in short, provided a much more comprehensive solution than what NPSP did. So instead of all those add-ons and installing plugins and installing this on that, contributing to more, system usage, system requirements, and things like that, NPCs came as a solution that would solve that problem. That was the main reason, or one of the main reasons, why Salesforce came up with non-profit cloud. So usually when I speak to nonprofits, we recommend basically or mostly non-profit cloud. It's the future. It's where Salesforce is investing. Salesforce is investing in, as we all know, Agentforce. Wherever you are or wherever you are in the Salesforce ecosystem right now, you should be learning data cloud. You should be learning anything and everything AI, Agentforce, and all those things. That's where the future is heading for Salesforce. So if I had to advise people coming into the nonprofit space now, I would say focus on learning nonprofit cloud. It's good to know NPSP, but if you know NPC or NPC to a very good point, usually you can maneuver or find your way around NPSP. NPSP seemed like a difficult solution or a difficult thing to learn when I was learning nonprofit, when I was coming into the nonprofit space back then. But there were so much resources, or there are so much resources, trail-led, so much trail-led groups, so much resources available online, videos. NPSP, Salesforce actually made videos that are called how-to series, short 3 to 4 minutes videos for NPSP. So it was easy for a new admin or somebody who's trying to switch into that to even go to YouTube, search for Salesforce how-to, Salesforce NPSP how-to series, and you'd see that playlist of, I think, 54, 30 or 40 or 50 videos, 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 4 minutes, that showed you a brief, quick insight into how different things worked in NPSP. But for NPC, that's not really the case right now. In fact, on my first NPC project, it was a huge learning curve. It was a massive, massive learning curve. I had to learn so much stuff. I had to, what's it called? Headbutt walls, and, learn a lot of things, learn it in such a way that you could learn and apply and bring in solution. And recommend solutions to clients. There was not a ton of resources back then, unlike what we have now. It's much better now. Is it 100% now? No. Is everything in NPC working as it should right now? No. Is it much better than what we had back in 2023, mid 2023, late 2023? Yes, I worked on a project in 2023 NPC. It was hard because even buttons, a couple of buttons were not working. You know, those lightning buttons that would click that were available, that Salesforce deployed as, client ready, were not working. We had to go undo, rebuild, and make a whole lot of lightning buttons for ourselves. And I had to work with others to come up with like a lessons learned document where we could fix in and put in notes of this doesn't work, don't bother working with this, don't try this. I have a couple of those things here that will also be walking us through as I proceed in teaching us this. Now, my next slide. Number one, personal accounts. The first thing I would call out is coming into NPC. If you've not worked with NPSP before, good for you. You shouldn't have any problems adjusting to this mindset. But NPSP was built on, contacts, and then that contact is related or related to a household. So when you create an individual, Mr. Sam, immediately a household account is created for that individual. That was the way NPC worked. And then other individuals, so if a contact is created for my spouse, for example, for my wife, she can be added to my household. If she's not added or related to my household, I'm talking about NPSP now, she would get her own household. So for every individual contact or every contact that is created or that was created in NPSP, a corresponding household is just automatically created. What that now meant is there were tons of households. Even when throughout the donor lifetime or throughout the donor journey of that individual, they didn't have maybe their spouse or their kids or cousins, uncles, aunties, whatever, or any relation set for them, but household accounts were created for them. That meant more data storage, because for every contact, like I mentioned, and a household account is created. But coming into NPC, Salesforce changed all that. Salesforce built NPC to work with what we call person account. A person account. So what's a person account? A person account is an individual on their own. It could be an individual donor. It could be an individual donor, an individual person at an organization. It could be an individual beneficiary of a program that a nonprofit offers. So what that meant, or what that means in the new NPC, Nonprofit Cloud, is that once Mr. Sam is created as an individual, all you would see for me in that Salesforce instance, NPC, is my personal account record. And then why did Salesforce do that? I shared this slide from Salesforce. Salesforce felt like it was a better representation of the way organizations, nonprofits, fundraising organizations relate with people. And usually that's it, as an individual person. So that person account that's created for that person is related to the contact record of that individual. But every interaction you'll be having with that individual in NPC is going to be with the person account. So, for example, one of those things that I mentioned does not work well or did not work well when Salesforce first launched this was that, how lookups work. I'm assuming everybody here has worked in Salesforce before. Worked with Salesforce before. If you have not, I'll try to make this as understandable as possible. So you could have a record, you could have an individual, and then you could click a box that looks up into another record. So you could have, for example, what I do, maybe my job or something, and then you could have a field or a record that has a list of maybe all jobs or programs that individuals partake in, right, or take part in. And then you could look up from a program into an individual's record. But what we then saw was that a lot of those lookups or lookup fields, for those who understand Salesforce lingo, were going into contact records, not person account records. And what that meant is that when you're viewing it as a contact record, you lose functionality on a whole lot of things. Things like, ARC, Actionable Relationship Center, that's available in this new NPC instance. You lose access to a lot of out-of-the-box functionality that Salesforce provides as soon as you start interacting with contact. So what I've had to do on a couple of projects is then repoint a lot of those lookup fields to a person account field so that you could see an individual's person account, not an individual's contact. So cutting the long story short, go into NPC knowing that you are dealing with an individual as a person account. If you see anything contact, you're going to eventually land yourself in trouble because you will not be able to use a whole lot of functionalities, data processing engines, ARC, and a couple of other out-of-the-box solutions that Salesforce has provided with NPC. So it's much and very important for you to understand that you must be set up to use person account. The way Salesforce built NPC, once you set up your account, usually you come with the person account enabled. If for some reason, a glitch, a technical problem or something, that's not the case, you should turn on person account. It is highly recommended. It is the way the data model for Salesforce Nonprofit Cloud is built. Moving on. Now, how do you model a person in Nonprofit Cloud? Like I mentioned before, so you have the first one here, the business as an account and contact, a person account without a household, so just Sam Balogun, not Sam Balogun household, right? And then a person account with a household. Now, the first one, the business account, a business model with the account and contact. So a person, an individual, and a business that you work with. So you could have, like the example we have here, a corporate philanthropy leader at an organization you work with to secure corporate grants. So Sam is a grant approval officer or VP of grants or grants management, VP of grants management or something at a very large nonprofit. You could store my details in NPC using that business model, the business account and contact model. So it's going to relate the individual, me, to the business account. The second one is the person account without household. So a donor, an advocate, an individual person, a program participant that you just track in Salesforce. When I switch into Salesforce, you would see all these things that I talked about. And the other one, the third one is a person account with a household. So that's, an individual, a donor, a program participant, or an advocate known as an individual along with their household information. And Salesforce has created the way this works now. So the way this works now is that unlike what was available in NPSP, Salesforce now allows us to have a really nice graphical representation that's powered by what is called an actionable relationship center, ARC. That's what powers that graphical representation of those relationships in Salesforce Nonprofit Cloud. Now, the next one, I will move on from this one fast. Unlike before, where affiliations and relationships were used for creating linkages between an individual and their household or an individual and their workspace, that's not what is used right now in NPC. So you don't have to create a household account. Let me switch here and show us what I'm saying. So, for example, I'm going to come to accounts. So I'm in Salesforce right now. This is Emily. This is Emily. As you can see, it says that Emily is a person account here. And then if you come to their details, of course, like this also says account record type here. And then their email, their regular demographic data that we would keep. And then if you come to relationships here, This, what you see here, is powered by what I mentioned, that is called Actionable Relationship Center. Salesforce has provided some of these things out of the box. They have provided some of these things out of the box. You have the option when setting up your NPC instance to select either, like we used to do for TrailEdge and other instances, to select a training org, a training Salesforce Nonprofit Cloud instance, something like this that has some data available to it that you can work with, right? And then you can select the option to also have one that is plain, no data, no setup. You do everything from ground up. Now, depending on your use case, or depending on the client you're working for, or depending on your nonprofit, I've seen both done, but I've seen more of this option done where it comes with, some of those Salesforce things set up. The reason why I've seen that done a lot is because it's a new product. So it helps to have data points to test with. It's best, or it's nice to have some of those Salesforce's out of the box functionality already pre-configured that you can then modify as needed. For example, when I set this up before the class earlier today, this relationship tab on this lightning record page, this was not here. I was the one that then added this ARC to this actionable relationship center. But when I come back to this, I would show us, how to do something like that. Now, if you look here, this contact relationship, you can see it says here that Emily Lozano is related to Luigi Lozano, and their relationship is the spouse CCR, or the contact relationship. Now, when we were in NPSP, all that was taken care of by the relationship objects. But in NPC now, you start saying things like this, like what I just showed you. CCR, contact relationships. ACR, account contact relationship. You start saying things like party role relationships and party role relationship groups, which is what you use to set up the kind of relationship that occurs or that happens between individuals, which is related to what we used to call reciprocal relationships in NPSP. Right. So as it is, you have a little bit of insight into where we are coming from for NPSP and where we are with Nonprofit Cloud. Now, going ahead or improving, going forward, we'll then start looking into things like the household data models, which is what I mentioned earlier. As you can see here, before, all that was represented was the contact and the account in the household. But now in the new Nonprofit Cloud data model, look at the way it is. So for you to relate, or for you to work to use Nonprofit Cloud NPC enough in a way where you are able to track or monitor or record data points for a household data model, you'd need to use all this. Party relationship group type, which are all objects on their own, account, then account contact relationship, and the person account. I won't go deep, much into that, so it doesn't get too technical for us. And then I'll go ahead. What then is new in Nonprofit Cloud? I've mentioned some of this before. I added this slide so it's easy for us. The party relationship group I mentioned earlier, it serves as the descriptor for the groups and holds the information for group sizes. So you could create a group for a household, or you could create a group for business relationships. This is what is used in Nonprofit Cloud to track that. Now, account relationship is used to track affiliations, which is what we used to use affiliations for in NPSP, right? So you can track all that using account relationships. And